accessibility is also about care. So our slides communicate expectations, they communicate who belongs, they communicate how much we've thought about our students' experience. And so today I want to reframe accessibility as an equity practice. And I bring to you From Compliance to Care, designing slides that signal belonging. So when students see a slide packed with text, tiny font, or an unclear structure, it signals keep up. It starts to look like this lorem ipsum mumbo jumbo. And we know that students are balancing a lot. They're learning how to manage their time, adjusting to new expectations, and they're also figuring out how to advocate for themselves. And so for students with invisible disabilities, first generation students, multilingual learners, or students who are just balancing multiple responsibilities, even small obstacles can quickly start to feel overwhelming. And so when they see a clear headline, they have space on the page, information is presented at a reasonable pace in a readable font, it signals I thought about your experience. Keeping these hidden barriers in mind helps us to respond with empathy, flexibility, and clarity. And this clarity reduces student anxiety, and our intentional design communicates belonging. So I think about accessibility not as a checklist of rules, but as a mindset. I use this simple acronym when designing slides, and it's called CARE. So clarity, accessibility, room to process, and enlarged for all. If my slides don't reflect CARE, I redesign them. So what does CARE look like in practice? So for clarity, just making sure that our slides have one key idea, a clear headline or topic that we're focusing on. In terms of accessibility, making sure that there's some contrast. So usually light colored font on dark backgrounds or vice versa. So here I have white text on a dark purple background to make sure it's really visible. Also including alt text for images so that students can see what's in those images if they're not able to see it. And I know later on some of my colleagues will talk a little bit more about that. Also thinking about if they have room to process. So is there white or negative space in your designs so that they can focus clearly on what's important? And are you thinking about their pacing so that they have enough time to process what they're being taught? Finally, enlarge for all. So just making sure that your font and your visuals are big enough so that whether we're on Zoom and students might be on a tiny screen, they can see everything clearly, or if they're in a room in the back of the classroom, they can see everything that's up on the projector. It's not about being a designer. While I do love designing beautiful slides, AI tools are really helpful to support us. And so you can prompt AI tools to help you condense information for a slide, to provide you with the alt text that you might need for an image, or even to create all of your slides for you with a theme of your choice, making sure that there's enough white space and clarity for students to understand and process. It's really just about removing unnecessary barriers to access. And so I have for you a few suggested prompts that you could use when thinking about how to redesign your slides. So whether using Gamma, Claude, ChatGPT, or another tool, you can ask it to turn your paragraph into a clear slide with a short headline, no more than 3 bullet points, use simple, direct language that's suitable for undergrad or graduate students, whoever your population is. You can ask it to suggest where to pause or to ask a quick question so students have time to process and think through what's being shared on the slide. Or if you're like me and you train your tools a little bit more, I've taught mine about my CARE framework. So I'll ask it to use that to redesign my slides that I share with it. And since I like to design my slides for myself, I'll have it share an image for suggestions to improve it, and then I'll design my slides as I want. And so just to share a quick example, this is a slide that we had beforehand and before CARE. And so as you can see, there's a lot of information to digest. And when you first look at it, it's not exactly clear where you should put your eyes and what information you want to focus on. And so thinking through CARE, we redesigned it so that it has a clear and large headline. And then thinking about accessibility with regards to the acronyms and hyperlinks that are used, we make sure that's clear for students, that there's enough room and white space around the text, and that it's nice and large so that they can see it visibly. And so I ask, what do your slides signal? Before your next class, I encourage you to take one slide and run it through CARE. Are there any small changes that you can implement? And it's not about perfection, it's just about intention. So a few small proactive practices can make a big difference. Thank you.
Amazing. Thank you, Veshno. I love the CARE framework so much. Incredible, incredible. Rhonda, you are up.
Great, thank you. Hello, everyone. I'm Rhonda Bondie. I'm an associate professor in special education at Hunter College, and I'm here to share a different way that you might think about using AI to develop our students' skills. And in my case, I prepare special educators. And so I'm going to show an example of using AI-driven practice to develop teacher listening skills and providing reflection statements to students. So, if we look at the insight framework to analyze how we're using technology, in this case, the teachers are learning with AI. They're using AI to help them explore concepts and to develop their own teaching skills. And so the area that I have them practice is something called motivational interviewing. And it's where we're training teachers to really listen to students and then respond with the meaning, to not parrot back exactly what someone said, showing that you heard, but rather to show that you listened, that you understand the meaning. And really, if you look at this iceberg, if you understand the feelings and thoughts that are underneath, that are supporting what a child says to you. So we're really trying to train teachers to not just parrot back, but offer at least a simple reflection, reflecting the meaning, or a complex reflection, really focusing student attention on the next steps in their learning. And so we use ChatGPT. It's a difficult skill if you can imagine teachers in the classroom with 27 students and the doors opening and closing and bells going off and papers and all these things going on, and you're trying to uh, provide a complex reflect statement to really focus in on the meaning of what a child said. It's pretty challenging to do. So AI provides a slow practice opportunity where teachers can take their time. So the assignment I have for students works like this. There's three parts to it. There's a getting started part where I ask them to open an incognito window, and I'm asking them to do this to protect their privacy. And then they're going to open a Zoom meeting, shut off their camera, and they're going to record their practice session. And they're going to bring that transcript of their practice session to class so that we can analyze together both the language the AI prompt used, the AI chatbot used to be a student, because we can analyze that for bias and all different kinds of things to explore how AI language works. But then we can also analyze how long it took us to develop our reflect statements and the types and of comments that we made and the interactions we had with the chatbot. And then I have the teachers just simply copy and paste this prompt. It also helps teachers to start to think about what a prompt might look like in a chatbot and how to formulate one. And they can change the chatbot to situations that they've experienced as well. But they can use this one as a model. So in this case, we're going to practice motivational interviewing using the Milner and Rolnick theoretical framework, which then that guides the chatbot to know what types of reflect statements we want to have. And this one is about a drama situation over friends, right? And we tell the chatbot that we want them to be a realistic teenager, to be a little curt, reserved. We give some parameters so that the chatbot is slow in opening up, doesn't make it too easy. And they want to show some ambivalence and not agreeing. So we're really giving the chatbot a lot of guidelines to create a rigorous practice situation. And then we ask the chatbot to wait for the teacher to initiate the conversation. Um, then, before the teacher closes out the session, we ask the teachers to ask the chatbot to give them some feedback on the types of reflect statements that they used. And they can bring this analysis to class. Sometimes the teachers will talk with the chatbot a little bit about the session and things that they may have tried or done differently. So I just want to share with you a little bit of what this might sound like with the teacher practicing. And I want you to notice how long teachers spend in between responding. You know, in a conversation, we go like this, but take a look at, listen for that. And the last thing I was going to say is, oh, it's not linked here, but I'll link it. We give the teachers a handout of sentence frames for simple and complex reflect statements. Um, Actually, let me just show it to you really quick so you can see. Can you see this a little bit? Like a simple statement is just pretty much restating what the child said, but a complex statement might be that you try to come alongside, or you show a positive and a negative based on what they said, or maybe you're envisioning something, or you try to reframe. Maybe you infer a feeling that wasn't expressed, but you think might have been suggested. So let's listen for simple and complex reflex statements.
Got it. Let's go with a scenario where the student is dealing with a falling out with a close friend. There's been some drama and rumors, and they're feeling hurt and unsure how to handle the situation or whether to try to mend the friendship. Let's start when you're ready.
I'm ready.
Okay, here we go. So I've been having a lot of drama with my friend lately. We used to be super close, but now it feels like everything is falling apart. There's been a lot of gossip, and I just don't know what to do anymore.
Your friendship with this person is changing.
Yeah, it's like we're not even the same people anymore. I'm not sure if we can go back to how things were, or if I even want to. It's just really confusing and kind of exhausting.
You miss how close you were, but you also don't like the way that the friendship is now, and you're just not sure of what you need to do next.
Yeah, exactly.
So you get the idea. The teachers have really enjoyed practicing this way, and it's interesting. Teachers who did this type of practice a year ago are still using it and emailing me today. So I think it makes for lasting learning as an assignment in class.
So cool. I'm like, oh my gosh, so cool. Thank you. Thank you, Rhonda. I know AI can sigh. Like, I'm like, oh my gosh, so cool. Awesome. Thank you so much, Rhonda. Amazing. Edgar.
Hi, everybody. I will put a link in the chat. This has some links to some of the stuff that I'm going to talk about. Um, and let's get started. So I want to talk to you a little bit about creating accessible technical diagrams using generative AI. I love doing these things in my classes. I'm a computer scientist, and we often need to see how things are represented. And so this definitely speaks to the visual learners out there. I also love kinesthetic learning where you move stuff around. Unfortunately, I teach on Zoom, so it becomes a little bit difficult sometimes to do kinesthetic learning. But I do have an exercise that I'm going to do tonight where this is a data structure that the students are going to learn about, and they have to add a box in the middle. They have to add a node in the middle. And so they'll actually manipulate this diagram in the steps that a computer would take to add the node. And by doing so, it's quasi-kinesthetic, and they're learning. But to build a diagram like this is incredibly time consuming if you're going to do it manually. You could draw this with PowerPoint or some other tool. I don't recommend you do it that way. In fact, there's a beautiful language called Dot, which is part of a suite called GraphViz, that you write a couple of statements and it builds a diagram for you. And honestly, the language is not terribly difficult to learn. So, for example, on the right side, you see that there's a node called the 5 of spades. The 5 of spades is connected to the 3 of spades and the 10 of spades. How do you know it? How do you know that? There's dashes that connect the two of them. So ordinarily, if I were to draw a diagram using the dot language, this is the technique I would take. I develop the dot code by myself. I sort of know the language. It might take a little bit of time. I'd run the diagram builder that converts from the dot code to this beautiful structured diagram that you see. And then I'd have to type up the alt text. You'll see in a presentation coming up that you can also use the Gen AI tools to generate that alt text. Right, so that's an okay process. It's a little time consuming, especially if you don't know the dot language. And just as an example, I did generate the alt text with an AI tool, and it's good. It's good. It's not exactly how I would describe this, and it's not exactly how I would think about this diagram, but it does describe the diagram, certainly. So, okay, the process is starting to come together, but I think it can be better than what I've described here. So, what if instead I didn't take the first round and I didn't actually draw up this diagram or sketch the dot code myself, but let's say I asked the Gen AI tool to help me out. So, okay, Gen AI tool, draw me this, draw me a full binary tree with the nodes. This is what I want to see. Okay, I'm generating this nice prompt for our Gen AI tool. And of course, I put it to one of my Gen AI tools and I got this back and I said, oh my gosh, I forgot this tool is text only. So, okay, this is not exactly what I wanted. I got back a textual diagram. Let me try this again. Let me try with a different tool. And so just by telling the Gen AI tool to draw this out, I got a diagram. Okay, this is a diagram, and it certainly is sort of what I was looking for. It did work. It's not a perfect diagram. I don't like how it's framed. I don't like the text. And the worst part of this is it's not editable. What was generated here is a JPEG image, and you would have to tell the Gen AI tool, hey, regenerate that. That's time consuming, it's not sustainable, and certainly doesn't work for what I want to do in my class, which is having students manipulate this diagram. All right, the upside, though, is I wrote the alt text. By writing the prompt, I'm actually creating the alt text to start out. Well, let's try this again. Instead of telling it to draw this diagram for me, what if I just change one part of the prompt? And instead of saying, hey, LLM, draw a full binary tree, why don't I say generate the dot code? Why don't you give me that dot code and let's see what happens? And so I did this. I took the same prompt and I told it, instead of drawing it, give me the dot code. And once I took that dot code and put it into the editor, wow, I got basically what you saw before, what I had generated by hand before. And so it produces this beautiful editable dot code. And it even gives me some comments if I want to edit this myself, which often I do. And the diagram is pretty good, I would say. All right, so one more question for you. Can I just, like, instead of even writing the prompt, can I just draw this on a piece of paper, which I used to do? And can I just throw that up there, kind of like what I used to do on a whiteboard? Um, hmm. Will the Gen AI tool take this diagram that I drew and snapped with my phone and turn it into something usable? And so the answer is yes, actually. We can get the Gen AI tool to even do this from our hand drawings. And I'll admit, when I put it into the Gen AI tool, it was sideways. It wasn't even great, and it did a good job. So what did I do? I took a picture of this with my phone, and I didn't ask it to draw the diagram. I asked it to give me the dot code for a comparable diagram, and then I ran that against a dot converter, and I got this beautiful diagram here. And so you can see what the code looks like. It's not terribly hard to edit. In fact, here's another secret. I can't draw a spade, so I just drew little diamonds, and later on I can use find and replace to insert the emoji of a spade instead of a diamond. And if I wanted to edit this, or I wanted my students to edit it, it's pretty simple to change the arrows or change the label or whatever it might be. And so that's really it. I encourage you to use diagrams in your class. I encourage you to speak to those visual learners. I encourage you, if it's appropriate to your discipline, add some quasi-kinesthetics by having folks manipulate those diagrams, and just do it in a way that's accessible and scalable by using code as opposed to using actual JPEGs. And the last thing I'll say is I'm a big advocate of the SVG format. It's the scalable vector graphics format that you can create pictures in, because those are graphics that are described in actual words as opposed to JPEGs, which are just pixels. And so that's something that you can look into as you're doing this sort of thing. And with that, I'll turn it back to my colleagues.
So cool. So cool. So if you just joined us, thank you, Edgar. That was so cool. We have gone over a care framework for making accessible slides. We've gone over motivational interviewing as well as drawing diagrams. Such cool stuff. We now have Justin. Go for it, Justin.
Hi, everybody. I'm Justin Tricarico. I'm an instructional designer in the Center for Digital Learning. I'm really happy to be here with all of you today to talk about some ways you can use generative AI to improve the accessibility of your presentations and other content. First, I'd just like to quickly do a quick plug for our accessibility, our quick guide to making course content accessible. This goes over a lot of the different, it has a lot of different resources for creating accessible content in your courses. It does touch on presentations as well. So if you need a reference on how to make your content accessible, please remember this page and know you can always reach out to me and my colleagues in the Center for Digital Learning to help you. So now onto the topic of the presentation. I have found, my colleagues have found, that generative AI is a really helpful tool in generating alt text for images. So as has been mentioned earlier, for presentations to meet the new accessibility standards, all images in a presentation need to have alt text. Basically, it's text that describes what the image is. So if there's a student that can't see the image, a screen reader can describe it to them. So instead of them looking at the image, it's a written description of what's in the image. Again, for presentations that have a lot of images and a lot of content, this can be a very time-consuming task. And we all have, limited thought capacity for dealing with these kind of things when we're working. I personally am a big advocate. I love pushing off that sort of mental busy work on the generative AI, so I can focus on actually creating content and being creative and doing what I want to do, and let AI deal with the stuff that I'd rather not have to think so much about. And generating alt text, it can do generally very well. We've been pretty happy with some of the results we've had. I'm going to share a few of those with you now. So another thing I'd like to mention, I just want to be sure that you're all aware that we have access to Microsoft Copilot as part of our Microsoft suite. Getting to it is very easy. If you open your email, if you click here on the little waffle in the upper left and choose Microsoft 365 Copilot, you'll land here on the Copilot window. And the beautiful thing about Copilot is it uses the ChatGPT engine. So you'll even see up here, you have a choice of all the different engines you can use. But there's no limit to how much you can upload, and it is slightly more secure than uploading content to the free version of ChatGPT. As part of our license agreement with Microsoft, Microsoft can't use what we feed into the tool to train its models. So again, you'd want to be careful about uploading student data or anything like that, but you can be a little bit more rest a little bit more assured that that your content isn't going to be floating out in the ether somewhere, and you have zero control of it, as you will if you're using a free tool. So these are all examples. I have a few examples here of where AI helped me in generating alt text. This is a diagram for a physics question. So a physics professor came to one of my workshops on how to create accessible content, and I took a screenshot of this image and demonstrated how Copilot can generate the alt text. It can also transcribe text. So if you just feed, I didn't want to retype that, so I just took a screenshot and pasted it into Copilot, and it went ahead and transcribed it. It even offered to help me solve the problem too. You can see some other examples. This is a book cover, and it just gave a brief description of what's on it. This is what the image looks like, and just gave me a brief ADA compliant description that I could add. This was for a PDF document. And then this was for a course I'm working on. These are a bunch of images for module descriptions in Brightspace. Paste it in, get the alt text. works great. I had a lot of success with these images. These are images that are used in the German language sequence. So this was actually very important because this was an image that was associated with with an assignment. So the student really needed to know what this stuff was to be able to do the assignment. So I fed the image in, and ChatGPT created a transcription of everything that was in it. I remember there's a slight error, like I think one of the prices is incorrect. So it's always important to double check. But it got me a lot closer and it did a lot faster than I would have been able to transcribe the whole thing. And if you want it shorter, you can ask for it shorter. And you can see a lot of different hand-drawn images where ChatGPT was able to transcribe. Here it even includes all the different animal names and the German translations. It's funny, actually, for some of these, I had to ask ChatGPT specifically to not translate the German because it was the students were supposed to be learning German and reading German. I didn't want to do that. Oh yeah, in this instance, I had to do that. Don't translate anything to English. Just give me a transcription of what's on the image as it is. There's the last example I'd like to show you is this example for a course for reading I was working on. This is a screenshot of a table that was included in a reading as an image. So I asked it to generate all text, and then I realized, well, that's not really going to work because it's too long, it's too detailed, and no one's going to really be able to parse that with a screen reader effectively. So I asked it to generate a table in HTML based on the image, and it did that, which is far better for accessibility. So to give you a sense, to compare the two, this is the original version of the reading. This was downloaded from a library database from EBSCO or something in HTML, and included this screenshot. This is an image of a table, like basically a screenshot or a scan of the image as it would have appeared in the journal where this article appeared. But this is completely not usable for a playing myself off there. I'm almost done. It's completely not usable for somebody using a screen reader because this is an image, the screen reader won't be able to parse this text at all. But a properly tagged table in HTML can be read by a screen reader. So the revised version, based on and it did this also, that flow chart too. So the revised version with the table in HTML is here. So now instead of the table being an image, it's HTML. So a screen reader can read that these are the column headings, and a student can actually navigate the table. And I combined the two screenshots into one. I did need to keep the I need to keep the image, and I need to put description for it here. And I'll stop. Not the least of which, the fire alarm is going off here in the north building. So if there wasn't a better sign that I need to stop, I think that'll be it. So thank you all so much. And feel free to reach out to me with any questions.
Thank you, Justin. I'm not gonna go be safe. I'm not gonna read your
and forgive me for leaving early.
Oh my gosh. Okay.
Bye-bye.
Poor Justin. All right, take care, Justin. Thank you. Thank you, Justin. Be safe. And Alexis.
Yeah, can you all see my screen?
Yes, amazing.
Okay, great. So I am going to do my own time. Our timekeeper went off. So my presentation is just going to be a little bit different. I'm out of the School of Social Work, but I teach in the doctoral program for social welfare at the School of in the social welfare program and the psychology program. And so my aims, and obviously I am not following the guidelines, the CARE guidelines, but bear with me here. My aim was to generate 1 to 2 slides on a normal curve for statistics. And what I did was I used ChatGPT as a gateway. And in under the GPTs um, in ChatGPT, there's on the left-hand side of the screen, it gives you options for specialized GPTs. There's one for Canva, there's one for presentations 5.2, and there's also Gamma you can access through ChatGPT, and then it'll take you to this third party. And so I will start by saying that I am not being paid to promote any GPT in this presentation, and my opinions are my own. I will also say that I am so new at this that I'm having to cobble things together. So think of this as a very beginner's approach to all of this. So what I ended up doing was using the presentation GPT in ChatGPT to hone my prompt. And then it directed me to Gamma to generate slides for free from a suggested prompt. And then I imported it into PowerPoint in order to check the accessibility and the alt text. So this is where I started. I'd like a presentation that shows the elements of a normal curve for graduate level statistics. Now, fortunately, that's something that is like well-known knowledge. And so ChatGPT could help me with a prompt that I used in both Canva and in Gamma. So this is the Canva version. And I don't know if people notice that this is not good. A normal distribution is nothing. The data in this image is completely wrong, even though I gave a bunch of directions in my prompt. And this is the best slide that it generated after 20 minutes of adjusting my prompt and another 10 minutes for it to be generated. Canva AI is very slow. And so for me, this was a big fail because there was nothing that I could use. Here is what Gamma produced. And while it might be too much information for one slide, I thought it produced something that was really noteworthy. So it gave me the key elements. It described everything very simply, really touched on all of the points without much prompting. So for me, Gamma was the clear winner, and it generated 2 slides with my prompt in under a minute. So it saved me a bunch of time. And then I was also able within Gamma to adjust my graphic here. So the figure here, when the original was generated, it wasn't a curve. There were data points, and it made it look like it had straight sides to it. And so I just asked it to have a curve. Now, the great thing is that you can edit things in Gamma. All this was editable. Once it's in PowerPoint, it's less editable, but I can still add my own things on top. Like if I wanted to draw a line, at -1 standard deviation, I can do that within PowerPoint. So I just want to say, so there wasn't for me an all-in-one software GPT or app that worked for me and what I wanted. And I ended up using a combination. And I think it's really important to decide what's most important and iterate your prompts. Keep experimenting, figure out what works best for you. For me, being able to edit an image is really, really important. So I appreciated Edgar's presentation. Gamma, this third-party app, was the fastest and the most accurate GPT for what I wanted. And once I had the prompt generated by ChatGPT, because it was super precise and it was the only bot that allowed me to edit the slides in-app and in the PowerPoint software, where I could check for accessibility using their within software features. And it also allowed me to enter alt text where there was none. It didn't really generate much in the way of um, really solid alt text for my normal curve, but it was okay because I could easily put my prompt in as the alt text as one example. And that's it.
Amazing, amazing. Thank you, Alexis. I love Gamma too. It's also really great on Google Slides as well. And so you can edit really easily. Amazing, amazing. Thank you. And Christopher.
Hi, thanks so much, Dina. Excuse me, I'm getting over a cold, so I might cough a little bit, but um, it's better that you're on that side of the screen. So I'm going to talk a little bit about an assignment that I use in my masculinities class, and I'll probably have to tweak this just because AI develops, and as it does, these assignments can't stay static. But essentially, what I'm asking my students do is to create some visuals of the concepts that we explore in one of my classes. I'm going to share my screen. I teach a class called Masculinities for the department, and one of the central ideas in masculinities is the idea of hegemonic masculinities, which kind of speaks, essentially to the sort of stereotypes that inform masculinities in any given society or any given historical period. So we essentially look at the plasticity of masculinity, and the prompt that I use for the very first assignment is to ask students to use ChatGPT, or if they don't want to, I do give them an option to opt out of AI tools because some students do have, especially in gender studies, they have ethical concerns about the resource use of some of these tools. So I always give them kind of an out or an option. But essentially to construct an image of a man, and I think in this prompt I asked them to draw an image of an all-American man, and then to record a podcast or to write a response that explores the stereotypes that are embedded in that image. And one of the things I'm trying to teach them, in addition to the sort of visualization that these tools can do is to kind of think about these tools as sort of human created, embedded with assumptions, especially about gender, race, and class. And that's, a takeaway that my students I sort of discovered almost immediately. This was kind of an average response. And I realized after sitting through the presentation on slides, I've done a terrible job of being concise. So I just kind of threw up everything on those slides. I very rarely use PowerPoint in my classrooms, but these were really good hints. And so I'll build them into the next time that I present this. But this was what my student wrote. And this was the image that was created. Most of the images that students came away with were this kind of image. They created an image of a man, an all-American man, and it created this image of a sort of a white guy, usually with some stereotype of American masculinity. Denim shows up a lot, American flags. In the next image, you can see some of the other sort of styles of American masculinity that showed up. There's the image of this actually, this image in the middle came from a student who used a Google image. And so she put in like American masculinities, and this was the image that popped up. This was a man, in a wide stance with a gigantic belt buckle and some kind of American West behind him. As a Texan, this is a pretty familiar image of masculinity to me. And then this was an interesting one too, as well. This is the one at the far right. Is an image that is an older man. It's a little more sort of somewhat more stereotypical, but does not necessarily embody the ideas of dominance that are implied by hegemonic masculinity. So at any rate, my student had some interesting responses for this. And in the assignment, I asked them to not only generate an image, but also to recount the conversation they had with the GPT or whatever they used, because there are some times where the AI will ask for more information. And in some cases, the AI is conscious of or conscious is not the right word, but it's aware of these biases and assumptions. And so it will sometimes ask questions. It's one of the reasons why I think this assignment will really evolve between now and next year. I think that even just anecdotally, I can see that ChatGPT is starting to learn how to respond to stereotypes and assumptions. And maybe that's just mine. Maybe it has learned that I'm a raging feminist, and so it's gonna speak to that knowledge. So at any rate, I had another student who did something totally different and said, "Show me a diverse group of men that reflect the demographics of Hunter College." Who basically said, "Show me the men in my community." And then she said, show them doing something sort of stereotypical. So you have beer drinking, photography, basketball, video games, cigar smoking, which, created a really rich set of interpretations for the students. And then the student said, show me the least masculine version of these men. And so, their clothing changed, their sort of expressions changed a little bit. I thought it was interesting. Some of the props that showed up, video games remained constant. I don't know why kettlebells are the least masculine version of, maybe in contrast to like, what do you call, I'm not very masculine in this way, I guess, like free weights or dumbbells or whatever. So maybe kettlebells are the feminine version of that. I have no idea. But asking why ChatGPT generates the images that it does and what kinds of assumptions might have led to those images has been really, really good for conversations. And also just kind of gives students a little bit of a critical outlook on this technology. So, one of the other students asked the GPT to generate a male inmate. And so they wanted to see carceral images of masculinity. They were interested in the intersections between masculinity and carcerality. And then says, kind of give him a hardcore look. So it created bars, tattoos, scars, marks. So, the sort of takeaway was that students really enjoyed this activity. I'd like to thank all of my fans and family. So, um, but it was a good assignment. They enjoyed it, and so I have some positive things to say about it. If you're interested, I can provide some more information and slides. So, thanks
We
very much.
have time, Chris, if you want to go back to that last slide.
Oh, okay. Well, yeah, I mean, the takeaways were that the students really enjoyed it. They engaged this idea much more deeply than I would have been able to get them to engage if I had just raised a question or given them a reading. They were really able to see how some of these assumptions around gender and class and race were instantiated in the technology itself. And so I thought it was a really great assignment. One of the other things that I've been doing in my classes, and this also may speak a little bit to accessibility as well, is I've been, unless it's a writing intensive class or a writing assignment, and I'm trying to teach them a specific writing skill, when I do interpretation and analysis work now, I almost always ask them to record it as a podcast or to do a video recording. They can do that and submit those as assignments in Brightspace. And I get such better interpretation, so much more critical thought. And if my learning goal is not to get them to write, which it rarely is, right? And to really get them to analyze, Using the recording tools on Brightspace is a great way to do that. So it's a separate thing from ChatGPT. But on this, I had students record podcasts, and it was way better, way deeper than what I get when I ask for written work or like a discussion board. So.
Bravo, so cool. Oh my gosh. So give all of our presenters a round of applause and all the hearts and all the wonderfulness. Incredible, incredible. We went through care frameworks and motivational interviews and diagrams and generating alt text and like different GPT prompts and different assignments. Amazing. We have about 10 minutes for questions. So if people have questions for specific presenters, please feel free to unmute or raise hand. Yeah, Christina.
This was amazing. Thank you so much. This was the best. Thank you, thank you, thank you. So Rhonda's presentation brought this up for me, in thinking about how AI really wants to be like so helpful. And that's really helpful when you're starting out, right? That it's like, in the recording you played for us, it's sort of like mirroring back and it's reassuring. And I'm curious, and this could be expanded to any of our presenters, like if you ever ask them to make the chatbot like disagreeable or like surprise them with a response, to kind of train them for real life when a student might be like, no, you got it completely wrong. Like, and then what do I do, right?
Yeah, that's exactly right. Like you can keep changing the prompts, and individual teachers can personalize their practice to the kinds of things that they're most interested in. And I find it's good for me to practice as a teacher because we interact with our advisees and our students all the time as well. And practicing those reflect statements really assumes that the person has the power to make a plan and take action to solve their own problems and to move forward in their learning. And you're helping them find their own agency versus giving them the next steps and what to do. And that's a big change in the way we interact. So it's a great thing to practice. It's kind of unlimited what you can do with the prompt.
So cool. And Edgar.
So this is a different topic than my presentation, but yeah, I've done that in an entrepreneurship class that I teach. I have the students talk about their idea for a business, and then I tell them, have the Gen AI be someone in the market who is a saboteur, someone who is going to be negative about your product, and try to convince them that the product is good, ask them questions about what they don't like. And it's a fantastic exercise because you really do need to see what negative things people might be saying about you and your work.
So, so good. I think Edgar, from you, I learned about the devil's advocate prompt. Is that what it's called? Yeah, yeah. Okay. Any other questions?
No, I just wanted to echo that. I really love that idea about asking the AI to be a difficult customer or yeah, there's definitely times where you want to have practice. I know something that stresses me out a lot, when I'm interacting with if I'm interacting with somebody who's annoyed or upset about something, which luckily doesn't happen very often, but whenever it does, it's something that I find stressful. So be able to like practice working through that with the AI is very, very cool.
The other thing that made me think about it was in Chris's presentation, it was in the image of the least masculine, where like it's like, oh wow, like that actually makes me wonder more, question more. And so I'm curious, Chris, when you started, did you do that from the very beginning, or is that something that you added to the assignment over time?
I gave them some options on that, and I said you can use whatever prompt you want to explore the idea of hegemonic masculinities. The example I gave them was like draw an average man or the all-American man or the ideal man. But then I gave them the freedom to explore other things. And so I had one student who was like, kind of show me somebody who's in prison. The students who said, show me the Hunter College students. I kind of followed her own prompt. But I did remember asking her, I was like, did you ask ChatGPT afterwards why it drew the men that way when you said, show me the least masculine version? Because I was curious. I was like, I mean, I'm not the best person to maybe know what's ideal and masculine, but I was like, but what's so unmasculine about a kettlebell? I was like, where does that come from? So she didn't follow up, but it's an interesting way to take this assignment is to try to turn this into more of a conversation as well as an image generator. So yeah.
And Roberta.
Yeah, thank you. I really enjoyed these presentations. My question really follows up on what Chris was just saying, and I was curious if in the prompts the students say an example of the least masculine male in a particular society, because the training for these tools is kind of skewed towards, in a lot of ways, a US notion of what is norm and what is not norm and etc. But a least masculine male in Asia, in an Asian country or an African country might be very different from a least masculine male in the United States. So I was just curious.
Well, they're supposed to name the national parameters, although a lot of what we look at is hegemonic masculinity in the US. So we talk a lot about like the sort of masculine signaling of imperialism. But the student who created the least masculine image, she did prompt it to create images of the Hunter College community. So I thought that was kind of interesting. I was like, what does it know about Hunter? Where did it construct those images from? Did it go onto our websites? And we'd had some of those conversations in class, but yeah, I think that's absolutely right, Roberta. I think this, is something that could be explored in a much more complex kind of way. So.
Thank you.
Edgar.
So I don't know if, Chris, if you've seen that some generative AI tools have the thinking portion where you can actually open up the pre-conversation and it goes over what references it's looking through and how it is thinking about gathering the information. But I would love, based on what you said, I would love to see not just the answer, but like the thought process and the references, because yeah, I think that would answer a lot of questions here that we're thinking about.
How do you get it to do that? Do you have to enter in a particular prompt in ChatGPT, like show me your thought process kind of thing, or?
It depends on the tool. We can talk about this offline, but many of them have a drop down, like a little down arrow. And if you use that, it shows you the pre-processing text.
Okay.
I don't know ChatGPT in particular, but others do definitely have the down arrow